Hi, Amber.
Hi, Megan.
Welcome, Michael. Welcome, TJ.
Hey, guys.
Oh, hello there.
I'm nervous now. Why did we do this again? Have we not learned our lesson?
You left the back door open and we came in through the window.
That's fair. Yeah.
Because we are not vampires.
Right.
Yeah.
Yet.
Ooh.
This is weird energy to start an episode.
You know. Well, we are about to talk about a movie that involves cannibals, so vampire energy is not misplaced.
Spoiler alert, it involves either cannibals or actual monsters that are supernatural in nature and not people.
I'm sorry. I did immediately destroy the reveal. I'm sorry. Spoiler alert is just people. People eating people.
It's the soylent green of monsters.
It's the soylent green of monsters.
It's people.
When you think it's not twins, it's cannibals. That made no sense.
Yeah.
You know, it's because it's never twins. It's
never
monsters.
twins.
It's
Shit,
just
what
cannibals.
the hell movie did we watch?
I
I'm
don't
confused
know.
now.
I'm all over the place.
There actually might have been twins in this movie. They all look the same to me.
Oh my gosh.
There were
Yes.
two dudes who I think they were interchangeable. Anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Megan,
Amber.
what did we watch?
Well, we watched the lovely 13th Warrior, the 1999 13th Warrior.
Oh, good. Thank you for clarifying on that one. We didn't want to confuse it with the myriad other 13th Warriors because there were multiple, so many of them, released at other times.
Yes.
In fairness, there's a lot of 13 movies, right? There's 13 Assassins come to mind, but there's there's just like a bunch of them.
13 Ghosts. Yeah, 13 Reasons Why. This is
Surprising,
the 13th Warrior, the only one of its name.
Based on a Michael Crichton book, Eaters of the Dead.
It's a creepy title, but as TJ pointed out while we were watching it, it's much more preferable than Eating the Living, I think. So I thought that was a good remark.
Yeah, yeah.
And the Eaters of the Dead is itself based on two different things. The Beowulf epic, as well as apparently the real-life exploits of the character for whom Antonio Banderas is named.
Right.
Yeah, a Middle Eastern historian who apparently really did travel and hang out with some Norse warriors.
Yeah. Yep.
And he was an expert in dressage as well, I believe.
Oh my gosh.
Had to be.
How they made this movie out of those two things, I don't know. It's incredible to think that this is somehow, like the flow chart of how we got here is bonkers.
It's very good. It's almost as if they picked two things out of a hat. Let's have these random things. Okay, we're gonna. Okay, Beowulf. Okay, all right. Ahmad ibn Fadlan's historical account of the Volga Vikings. All right, here we go.
Well, those two things actually do make sense because, like, Beowulf is kind of Norse-based ish,
True.
magical saga. My thinking more is along the lines of how did we get from real life interesting historical figure and epic poem to the 13th Warrior. That's what boggles my mind. But you know what? I'm thinking if I read some of the synopses from some of my favorite sites, we'll get a little glimmer into what this movie was about and how these things all came together. So Megan.
Yes, Amber.
Where would you like me to start?
Let's start. Do you want to go start with Amazon or save it?
You want me to start with Amazon? You want to? Okay. Wow. Do you eat your dessert first too?
Sometimes.
Why'd I even ask you? We're starting with Metacritic.
Okay.
This one I had to expand the synopsis because it was that long. Ibn Fadlan (parentheses Banderas), an important emissary who is banished from his homeland, comes across a band of Norse warriors who coerce him into joining them when they are summoned to fight mysterious creatures legendary for consuming every living thing in their path. First sentence. Eventually surrounded by the frightening and ferocious foe, Ibn must conquer his personal fears and help battle the elusive invaders who emerge out of the shroud of fog and the black of night.
Oh boy!
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
It was evocative.
I got chills. Did anyone else get chills?
It was definitely evocative.
I mean, it was good, but man, those sentences roll along like a train coming down the mountain without rails.
Yeah. Yeah.
Legendary for consuming every living thing in their path. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. That was accurate, at least.
No, it was fairly accurate. I don't know about the coercion. He didn't seem necessarily I guess he must have been coerced. He wasn't.
He was coerced. He didn't want to do
fair.
it. Yeah.
He didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
All
He
right.
didn't seem. I think we can cover this later. I feel like if he was coerced, they didn't cover that very... It was like...
Yeah, they skipped right through the coercion.
He seemed like he was on board more jovially than I would have ever thought.
It's assumed coercion.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have IMDb. A man, having fallen in love with the wrong woman, is sent by the Sultan himself on a diplomatic mission to a distant land as an ambassador. Stopping at a Viking village port to restock on supplies, he finds himself unwittingly embroiled in a quest to banish a mysterious threat in a distant Viking land.
It's pretty good.
I didn't know they were stopping for supplies. Also,
they were not stopping for supplies. They were running from the Tartans. Yeah.
I will point out that Metacritic claims that he was an important emissary who was banished from his homeland. He is described as a poet. He describes his personal profession as poet. And then when he falls in love with the wrong woman, he gets banished as like an ambassador to distant lands. So
it's one of those punishment ambassadorships.
He's a punishment ambassador. Yeah. Of a poet.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, you write poetry. Well, now you're an ambassador to, like, barbarians in the north.
Yeah, nowadays it's a kickback to, like, somebody who donates to your campaign. But back in the day, it was, you're trying to be an adulterer, so you're going to go to a distant land where you will probably die.
Exactly. Yeah.
And make, inroads with other cultures,
Well,
of course.
if you can.
You'll probably die, and you won't even understand what anyone is saying to you as you're dying.
Exactly.
You'll be surrounded by gibberish, to you gibberish.
Mm-hmm.
That is a bad death.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a poet, a person of words.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Not
like
wrong.
sending a poet to a place where no one can understand your art. Right? It's like sending a musician to an island where no one has hearing.
So true.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So
Yeah.
true.
Good point.
Poetic justice.
No.
I will show myself out.
Just play you out. Do.
Yeah.
All right. Amazon. Best for last. A band of warriors are being attacked by ferocious creatures.
Yes.
That's
Nailed
it.
That's it.
The end?
That's the end.
Okay.
Thank you, Amazon. Thank you so fucking much for
Wow.
never disappointing
Wow.
me. There are new features that I either haven't noticed before or just exist on this one. Below the description, it says, this title is, fantastic, sad, gritty. And then it also describes it in under genres as a documentary adventure action.
What?
Wow.
It's none of those. Well, I mean, it's adventure and action, but it's not a documentary.
I love Amazon so much.
Oh my God,
Who is
Amazon.
doing this?
Like, I can appreciate the challenge of trying to summarize a movie in like one sentence or two sentences max. But you have to be somewhat accurate. They're not attacked by the monsters. They are there to hunt the monsters, right? Like it's
Right.
Oh man.
And
It's-
technically, Banderas' character isn't a warrior either. They have stripped it of all meaning. A random band of generic warriors are attacked by generic ferocious creatures. We don't know.
Has it happened in history?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't
As,
know
you know,
where.
the
We don't know
documentary.
who the warriors are. We don't know why anybody's doing anything. This could be a fucking werewolf movie, and they're soldiers for all we care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine some poor kid like staying up late and he has to do like a book report on like a documentary that he saw, and he types in documentary into the search and he comes to 13th Warrior and he's like, wow, learning is fun.
Learning is amazing and surprisingly graphically gory.
I'm gonna go to school and talk about the 13th Warrior. That's amazing. Thank you, Amazon. Well, I would like to try to top that if I could
Yes, please.
with our recurring segment. Michael raps the plot,
Yay.
Yes.
which I literally wrote in the 10 minutes that it took for TJ to figure out his recording device. So
Yep.
it's going to be great.
It's going to be great. I'm so excited.
No doubt in my mind.
We also did see you practice it while you were
I
mute
did
for
mute my
about 3 or
microphone.
4
Yes.
seconds.
So now there's expectations for quality because you said I practiced it.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Oh boy, way to throw him
Yeah,
under
call
that
me
bus.
All right, here we go. Say, my homeboy Eben, it's time you were leaving. Looking at my wife, man, you some kind of heathen. Sent to the north, cold land hiking, chased by Tartars to the water where they meet the Vikings. Language barriers at a Viking funeral. Burn the dead king's wife, eat dinner from a snot bowl. Fogboy asks for help, they say yes, no doubt. A witch reads bones and 13 dudes roll out. What's this monster? It's a mystery. Viking SWAT team about to make history. Up in Hrothgar's castle, which kinda sucks. Pretending to sleep, wake and stab those fucks. Build a wall of sticks, mix politics. Puck decaps a thug before the midnight warm trucks. Down a bunch of warriors, what could be worse? Now they raid in the cave, take the fight on their turf. Decap their queen, then take a little dip. Bolvi dies, but it was all worth the trip.
What the
Yes. Yes, Michael, yes.
That was amazing.
That was
10 minutes.
fantastic.
It was less than 10 minutes, I think, too. That was incredible.
Yeah.
Why do we even... do we have to say anything else anymore?
Couldn't find a rhyme for dressage. That's the only thing I'm really disappointed
Yeah.
about.
What about
What is
mirage? They come out of the the mist like a mirage.
I'll show myself out. God, I knew. We got to workshop this stuff. Anyway.
Yeah. That was beautiful, Michael.
That might be your best one yet. And I feel like I now
yeah.
need to demand that everyone watch The 13th Warrior and then come back and re-listen to that, because that was perfect.
The plot. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was.
That was very impressive.
Let's get into the deets, though, guys, because this movie, I love this movie.
Yeah.
I love this movie.
Tell us, Michael. Tell us about the. Do you remember the first time you saw it? Do you remember how old you were? What your journey?
Oh wow! I mean, high school, I guess. I mean, I had read. I was old enough to have read Beowulf, so I actually recognized the references to Beowulf. But yeah, I was excited because, as I've said on the podcast before, like I'm always in the mood for like a medieval adventure style movie, you know. And Lord of the Rings wasn't out yet, so we had 13th Warrior, and I like Antonio Banderas a lot. He had just made Zorro, and I can't remember if Zorro came out before or after this, but he was very good in this movie, but he was cast because he had that star power, right? But I feel like in other parts there are some of the other side characters that really kind of steal the spotlight from him a little bit. But yeah, no, it was a fun action adventure movie. It's one of those kind of movies where you can kind of catch it at any point in the plot, and the plot's not all that great or complicated, but it's fun to watch it from any point, I think, in the movie, in my opinion.
I agree. Yeah, it is like you could watch. This could be on like a movie channel, you know, or like TBS, you know, and you could pop in halfway through, and whatever scene you're on is going to be great. Mm-hmm. You're gonna feel like you alive again for the first time.
Yeah, you're like, oh cool, 13th Warrior's on. I know what I'm doing for the next however long there's left in this movie. It's this is what I'm doing. I love this movie. I loved it the first time I watched it. It was unsettling and gory. It gets really creepy and then just violent. The Vikings, well, difficult to remember who's who. If you watch it enough times, you just describe them by their features, and you are fond as fuck of them, despite the fact that there's no character development for the most part. There are lines that make me laugh. It's just wonderful. It's a fish out of water story with murder and cannibals and medieval sword and not really sorcery, but like there's a little supernatural tingle to things going on. A
little bit. The psychological warfare that the monster, the cannibals bring is like a new level of villainy. It's this really cool terrorism that they really enact upon Hrothgar's kingdom and the other people of the north. And it's clever, and they're supposed to be like this juxtaposition of like cannibals are supposed to be like these basically animal monster, not really like you wouldn't think of them as intelligent, but here they are like doing these very sophisticated psych out maneuvers to really just cripple not just the murdering and killing everybody, but like psychologically just cripple the entire kingdom.
Their will to live and their will to fight. Yeah,
you could argue that they were animals, or they were trying to get food, because obviously they're eating the people as well, right? So, so they could have been entirely practical, but they said, you know what, we should have fun with our work too, right? So they made it interesting for themselves. They upped the difficulty level, I would say, and ultimately it was self-defeating. I mean, they could have been practical and sort of just like grabbed people here and there, and we could talk about how their terrorism ultimately led to, I think, their defeat. But it was, they shined very brightly for a period.
It's very true.
Yeah. So I think for all the reasons you said, this is a great movie. It's literary. I think that's the first thing you mentioned, Michael, because you read Beowulf. I call this one of the more literary films I've seen. It's eerie and violent. What's that face you're making? The people can't see the face, Michael, but is it?
Yeah.
That was agreement. Is that an agreement face?
We'll call it that for now.
And it's funny, as Amber mentioned. There's lots of like very actually kind of hilarious moments, and there's heartfelt moments. I tear up. I tear up in a couple scenes. You know, when at the end when the king or the person who hasn't been a king but he's gonna be. Anyways, I don't remember the quotes, but deeds and things. And it's beautiful. That's everything I have to say. Listen to Michael's rap again instead of what I just said. Everything.
TJ, do you have a memory of seeing this for the first time?
I don't remember the moments that Amber and I probably saw this together the first time. She probably remembers better than I do. I also must have been in high school. It came out when I was probably a junior or something in high school, I think. Am I wrong? When did
99. You would have been a senior.
And so I'm sure Amber and I saw this together at home on probably a VHS.
I did have it on VHS.
And it was thrilling. I suspect we may have just rewound it and watched it again, which meant, it took 10 minutes in between, but.
Yeah, because you had to pop the disc out, put it in the rewinder so it didn't wear out your VCR. Yeah, it was a whole thing.
We just lost your whole millennial audience. All of them.
I certainly hope so.
Back in our day.
And this is Megan's first go-through of the Glorious 13th
And it was my first
Warrior.
go-through.
She almost got to watch it. We were talking so much the whole time.
Just had to tune you guys out a little bit, and then I was able to actually focus on the movie.
Yeah, what were your initial impressions, Megan?
I really loved it. I think it was not necessarily what I was expecting for some reason. I didn't know. I didn't have any basis for it. So like the creepiness of the cannibals really rang through. And it's got that, like you said, the Beowulf kind of feeling to it, which is also very creepy. And then and then everybody was delightful until they died. So that was great.
Which they did frequently.
Many of them did.
Yeah,
they did
frequently die.
Often and violently.
Yes.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
think the first death was probably the most violent one, actually. And they sort
Yeah,
of just made
Yeah.
the
When
forcible.
they broke into the chamber and there was one of the Vikings got
Just rips his head
ripped
right off.
off.
Just right off.
With
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
with arms.
Yep.
Yeah.
Barehanded,
not cut off, ripped
head
off.
rip. Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
takes
woof.
that head with him.
And then the camera follows the head as he's carrying it away.
Yeah.
I wanted there to be like a long scene where it was shot from the perspective of the head. Like I think if it had been like a certain more avant-garde director, we would have watched the head be like retreating from the battle.
Jesus,
and witnessing the battle.
Wow.
That is very next level, TJ. As it was, I was about to compliment like the action sequences are well directed and well lit. I've seen enough recent stuff that like is too dark or too much camera shaking. Like it's hard to follow what's happening. Like the action sequences in here are excellently shot. You even though you don't know who everyone is, you can follow what's happening pretty well.
And there's not a ton of cuts in motion, and it's like it's short, brutal, bloody. Like the gore is well done and well used, and I don't feel excessive. Like that too is meant to be because like you're watching frickin' Viking warriors hack apart frickin' cannibals. It's messy. So yeah, I agreed, and that was as we move into the critics' corner. That was something that a lot of the positive reviews and even the middle of the road reviews said. Like nobody disagrees that the action was pretty baller. The story is where people fell down. Like, and a couple of people definitely mentioned the end, which is anticlimactic. There's sort of a double ending that happens in this movie, and we did some reading online, and now we know why that happens. Yeah, mostly it was we don't like the story at all. We think it's badly made. We think it's clunky. We think it's lumbering. Some people didn't like the fact that it jumped from one set piece to another. And apparently the action wasn't enough to keep their attention. I'm sorry, Roger Ebert, okay? It's a freaking... Did you not read Amazon's description? It's about warriors beset by ferocious creatures. What are you expecting?
Yep.
What's ironic, I suppose, is if they could have made this a longer movie and really explored some subplots and really like built up to more things, but then I think the pacing would have really suffered. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right.
As it is, like I mentioned earlier, like you can watch any part of it and continue watching it and understand it and enjoy it. there would be some serious dragging moments. And that's another mistake that a lot of modern movies make, is they make that 2.5 hour long epic and it just drags in parts. And it's like that, we don't need all that. There's enough there. Would I like another hour of this movie? Probably, because I like the movie, but did the movie really, really need it? I think the critics are wrong about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I went like 5 minutes at the end, in a normal thing, in a movie where you followed a bunch of different cast of characters, where it just shows where are they now, or like where'd they go next.
Yep.
Rathgar became a lawyer and now works in, that's really where I wanted it to go. And so I think that's
really
missing.
great.
Yep.
Even if it was just like spliced into the credits, like the way Marvel does or something. Just like showing like a little picture of like a Viking with a fish and he's all like smiling with his thumbs up.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he started his own fishing company, Bubba Viking Fishing or something. I don't know.
I mean, other than that clearly it is missing that. But I agree with Michael. You don't need long, heartfelt conversations about people's feelings and motivations for this movie to be effective. I think, for me, the one failing was how quickly they went from just the eerie uncertainty of the foe to, they're just like cannibals who are pretending to be bears. I mean, I like that the runtime is relatively lean. It's like an hour and 42 minutes. So you kind of have to do that to then kind of get to the how do we solve this problem and the action scenes. But I think they almost blew that mystery a little bit too fast. It was kind of rapid fire. But other than that, I mean, they're warriors. They're not going to have long conversations about their feelings and motivations. Like, the quote that TJ was thinking of is one of the biggest heartfelt exchanges amongst characters. Antonio Banderas' character and like the chieftain who's leading the band of Vikings to deal with the threat. They're about to go off to almost certain death. And the chieftain is like, I will die a pauper because I have nothing. Like, I came here to do this. I was going to make my fortunes afterwards. I'm screwed. And he said, just to the air, a man might be thought wealthy if someone were to draw the story of his deeds. And at this point, he's since learned that Antonio Banderas himself can write, and he's a poet. And Antonio Banderas, again, just says to the air, such a man would be wealthy indeed. It's just a way of saying, hey, bro, wouldn't it be cool if you wrote about me since I'm going to die with nothing? And Banderas is like, yeah, that would be, I got you, dude.
I got you, baby.
But they said it like warriors and men. Like, that's what this movie, this movie speaks with deeds and greatness.
It does. It's not, and it shouldn't be a talky movie. The other thing that what you just said reminds me of too is Banderas' relationship with the peasant woman.
Yes.
They almost don't even look at each other, but they have this really brief romance that is just kind of doomed and fatalistic. Like they expecting fully to die. They both survive. Spoiler alert! But they both live through the story. But
despite her best efforts providing him with piss medicine.
Yes.
Piss medicine, yeah. The piss doctor peasant woman.
Somehow they both survive.
She's incredible. But their whole relationship is also that. Like, and it builds suspense, I think, because they're not talking about their feelings and how she likes him or loves. It's like, it's not that flowery crap. It's like, this is serious, like, we're fucked, gonna die situation. Let's spend a night together.
Yep.
And
like, there's a 30 scored review on Metacritic from Peter Brunette of film.com. With the possible exception of the action sequences and the occasionally imaginative set design, it's awful. And I'm glad he mentioned the set design. And in general, they shot in a location that helped tell the story. It was moody, it was brutal, it was wild, it was atmospheric. The use of the mist and the way the Viking village was built as just, it was wood and mud and brutal. And
yeah, it wasn't your Game of Thrones huge castle. It was a shitty wood fort.
This is like barely above prehistoric, people. And then the Vikings themselves, like, they didn't have a conversation about this, but if you're paying attention, the Vikings themselves are all wearing different armor, and the armor itself is from different geographical locations. Like, the head chieftain guy looks like he's wearing like French knight armor, and one of the other dudes has this very specifically shaped helmet with a faceplate that moves out that looked like a Roman, like Praetorian helmet.
We called that one Thor 2.
Thor 2. And then...
Oh, yeah, we haven't got to Michael's amazing nicknames.
The
for
naming
every Viking.
conventions. The problem is, I would give you the names of these Vikings or actors. We don't know them. It's hard. We made up our own because they rarely use each other's names. So much so that in the IMDb list, there's the name of the character and then a nickname next to the character that we did not hear in the movie.
No.
And we didn't know they were going to do that, but Michael had already come up with naming conventions just so we could keep track. And then after the movie, we tried to figure out who each person was, and IMDb had come up with, I would say, inferior, but also naming conventions.
Thank you. I'm glad that you said that because they are definitely inferior. So we derailed your point, though. You're talking about just the attention to detail about their armor.
Yes. So you had like a conquistador armor and like
that was Snotty
spurs
Bear. Snotty
and-
Bear had the conquistador armor,
and like
Banderas was in chainmail. Like it was just there's just a lot of flavor.
There was a person who had like Celtic knotwork across their face and wore a kilt and like all of it because what frickin' Norse warriors did was roam around Europe via boat and rape and pillage. It's just what they did. They spent a lot of time in Ireland fucking around. And of course they would loot the bodies of their kills and they would be arrayed in their trophies of warfare. And it's not like we talked about this. It's not like they bragged about it. It was just, they showed it. They had it as part of the atmosphere, as part of the imaginative set design was also the costuming. And like that attention to detail was delightful. The fact that Antonio Banderas was wearing gorgeous eyeliner in the beginning.
Yes.
Indeed. He looks very beautiful.
He was beautiful.
He was beautiful throughout the movie.
Oh, he's beautiful.
This is 99 Banderas. I mean, Banderas won't age ever.
He doesn't.
But like this is peak Banderas.
Yep. The eyes. Beautiful man. Those beautiful, soulful eyes. Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just to close the loop on this, so you're Amber. What I'm hearing from you is Amazon classifying this as a documentary, partially true. If we're at if we're talking about the costumes,
damn it,
a little bit documentarian.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. God damn it.
Yeah,
got me again, Amazon.
What is truth anyway?
That's a great question. Is everything a documentary implicitly?
Yeah.
Even if it shines a light on what if it's fictional, it tells us what is true in opposition. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, my breakfast is a documentary.
Oh dear. I would say that the critics really didn't appreciate. I think if you've read the books, I could see being disappointed in how the story was really kind of ripped down into lean, mean fight scenes. And the director himself, that's kind of what he'd do. He's like the guy who did Predator and Die Hard with a Vengeance. So, yeah, you get that guy, you're going to get a really solid action movie with burly male characters doing their warrior thing. And that's what you freaking got with like amazing visuals and really funny dialogue mixed in.
And if I may add, I didn't realize until we were doing a little bit of research for this that this was the same director that did Predator. Predator is a critically acclaimed, awesome Arnold Schwarzenegger classic. This is basically the same movie if you think about it. Like it's not that different. Like they just keep having encounters with in Predator's case, an actual supernatural force, but like, but then they learn that they can actually kill it too. You know what I mean? So and one by one they get picked off, and there's these manly warrior dudes. It's the same movie, just different context. And I would argue in some ways, 13th Warrior does some things better.
I don't disagree.
Whoa.
I don't.
Whoa.
There's a little bit more depth to it. There's a little bit more interest in the dialogue, and there's not a ton of character development, but you do get distinct characters presented to you just with the action. Yeah. So it's like that's how. So just to close out the critic corner, no, you're wrong again. 42% from Metacritic. What did you have from Rotten Tomatoes, Meg?
I had 33 from the critics and 66 from the audience.
Fuck you. At least the audience was at 76.
Out. Yeah.
It's
No.
76, 80 to me is about right. Like maybe it's like 70 if it's not your like thing. But it's a good movie. It's well made.
This is a great action movie. Like it is a great action movie. Good one-liners, badass moments. Just hells yeah.
Yeah, let's get into some of those badass moments.
Let's do yes.
Leave the critics behind.
See you later, you hacks.
Yeah.
How deep do you want to dive into the first 30 minutes? The first 30 minutes like establishes how Banderas came to be with the Vikings, and then they like after like minute 30 they get to Hrothgar's castle. So
Yeah. I'd prefer to concentrate on after they get to the castle.
Yeah, we can do a drive-by of the beginning part.
Yeah.
yeah.
It really does seem like Antonio Banderas looks at someone's wife askance, and then they send him send him thousands of miles away to die in a mystery.
But that's how he says it. But we only get his perspective, and I have this impression that he wrote like in a like really really like body poem
Raunchy
about
poem,
her, and it was like he thought he was being clever, and he like delivered it to the king, but it was clear that he was talking about the king's lady in a pretty inappropriate way. That's my impression.
He was just a noble's lady, and the noble told the king to do the thing. But yeah, he probably wrote just a very detailed poetic description of the woman's vagina, and the dude recognized it, and it was all
That's almost certainly what happened.
And he was like, wait a minute, that's one of my wife's vaginas.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'd recognize that anywhere.
I would know a description of that vagina from anywhere.
Yeah. So, I mean, if the audience is listening, we don't know that that's what happened, but we are pretty sure that that's what happened.
I think TJ, you're right. It's heavily implied.
Yeah.
By which it's not implied at all, but I now can think of no other way of interpreting that. So
I do like that he brings his friend with him. So his friend also has to get banished too, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right. I didn't think about that.
I think he said that that's his dad's friend who's traveling with him up there, and then is going to go back. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, he's going to go back eventually. Yeah. Okay.
That was my understanding.
But he acts as a translator when he encounters the Vikings, and there's a whole, there's a boy who needs help, and there's an old lady who threw some stuff on the ground, and she's like, 13 warriors are going, and it's like, I'll be one of them, and then Antonio Banderas is sitting there, and the lady's like, blah blah blah, and then it's great. So you're translating from Norse to Greek to English. Because they find one of the Vikings, who we call Viking Puck, who's by far my most favorite. He's jolly, he's funny, he's dashing. He knows Greek. So he's translating from Norse into Greek and the Greek into English. And so they're like, by way of telephone, actually the 13th warrior can't be one of us. It has to be someone who's not from here. So here comes the coercion.
Yeah.
Everyone, it's a pretty exciting moment in the movie where everyone's like volunteering, and Antonio Banderas is actually like Ibn is what they call him, but he's really getting into it too. You can see him being like he's kind of getting swept away with the excitement of each of the Vikings volunteering and saying, "I'll be number 13 or whatever, or 12 or 11 or whatever," and then everything goes quiet suddenly. And he has no idea what's going on, and that's a good moment.
It is a good moment.
It's a great scene.
Everyone just kind of looking at him, and he's like, "What's happening?"
Yeah, it's like this rowdy festival atmosphere of testosterone, and then dead silence. This, of course, leads to probably my favorite them getting to Hrothgar's kingdom and shit really getting creepy and interesting. Is as he's journeying, via horse, via boat, just miserable around campfires through rain and cold. You just see him watching all of the other 12 warriors talking in language he can't understand. And then over time, you start to hear, they start to say things in English. Until finally he's sitting at the campfire and he can understand everything they're saying. And one of them makes a comment about his mother. And he very slowly and methodically says, in their language, at least I know, basically, my mother was a pure woman. And at least I know who my mother is, you pig-eating son of a whore. And so, the first words he utters after learning their language is a defense of his mother, and then a burn on the guy being a dick, and then just in case he didn't understand he was calling him a bastard, he outright insulted him.
Yep. Yep.
That's a pretty good move. That's a baller move for an ambassador to make.
Yeah. Oh, and then the follow-up to that I love too, because then they're like, how did you learn our language? And he's like very serious. He's like, I listened. And then there's a beat, and then everyone just laughs.
Yep.
Everyone just has a huge chuckle about that. That's so great. Because he's trying to, show he belongs, in a sense, and, with these rowdy, rowdy Viking boys. And that's the moment when they kind of take him under their wing. They start calling him little brother very shortly after that. Mm-hmm. But they do other things too. They make fun of his horse. They call it a dog because it's so small. And then he does dressage for a bit. Like he goes and jumps over all these like fences and bushes and stuff. And he's like, yeah, see, I can ride a fucking horse. And they're like, I've never seen a dog jump like that. Like they just keep like getting after each other, and like it makes you. They do enough in 5 minutes of film to like build this camaraderie that like it's really, really funny and great and sweet in a way.
Yeah.
You know, like in a very kind of like, I guess, toxic masculine bro kind of way, but
ultimately,
but they're Viking
Sometimes.
warriors.
You
So it's
can
like,
forgive
okay.
it because they're from 1000
Yeah.
AD.
right. They're within the context of being Viking warriors. They're actually kind of sweet.
Yeah, they're woke.
They're actually kind of like warm people, like calling him little brother, and like sort of like. It's a little bit like Disney does toxic masculinity. Like it's sort of like you feel a little bit okay about the whole thing the whole time.
Well, even when they're on the boat and Banderas is vomiting over it, and they're all like they're like laughing in this storm, and like it looks like the movie A Perfect Storm, like with the big tidal waves and everything, and he's hurling over the thing, and Snotty Bear comes up with a bowl and he says, "Yeah, you eat this," you know, like he's taking care of like in a very like loving way, actually.
Yeah, and there's enough of that, and it's done very, like, succinctly that, like, I do think they could have spent more time, like, distinguishing these different tall, blonde men from each other, but you don't really need it. Like, you know a few of them pretty well, and you see these, like, intimate moments between a lot of them, and I think that's plenty. I don't think I'd want half an hour more of that because, spoiler alert, a bunch of them are about to die. So.
Yeah, a bunch of them die.
Yep.
And really, like 3 of them come out in the wash as being actually distinct and interesting, and that's enough.
Yeah.
Other than
13 of them.
Banderas.
Yeah. 12, yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
It's the problem that the Hobbit movie ran into. Like they made 9 hours of it, but then they had all these dwarves that they like felt that they had to give a bunch of backstory to, and it didn't matter.
And honestly, I don't know that they distinguished those dwarves anymore.
They did a shitty job
more than they did with these guys in like one movie. You know,
exactly
in an hour and a half versus
Yep. This was exactly right. Like I know the characteristics of the ones that made some sort of distinct impression. Those are the ones I know. The rest are sort of just like, that's the guy that's going to die in this way. But there's you call Snotty Bear, the guy in the conquistador armor. He, snots into a bowl and hands it to Antonio because everybody's like washing hands and doing disgusting things into this water. So he's of course Snotty
one
Bear.
bowl. Yeah.
The snot bowl was part of their meeting too. Like they're all snorting and washing their hands and splashing it in their faces, and it's like that's that's how they're tied. Like in a very visceral and disgusting way, it shows you the bonds between these men.
Yep.
We know who they are by their characteristics. That's why the nicknames work so super well. And we also know that apparently Antonio Banderas' character wasn't just a poet. He was also an expert rider, eventually an expert swordsman, also a blacksmith. He can work metal. And a linguist, because he just learned an entire language over the course of just traveling. I mean, even if it took months, that's still very impressive. So,
yeah. But his one flaw is his lack of faith in piss medicine.
True.
The piss doctor.
All right, we're in Hrothgar's castle. Megan, take it away.
Oh, I'm taking it away? Oh, great. Well, this is where we get. What's really interesting is we both have the mystery of like, okay, they've been asked to come up here by a small child who has come,
that is funny. A lot rides on the word of a child. Just
and you saw how far they went to like, like this one small child went down to ask for these 13 warriors to come up, thousands of miles, hundreds of miles.
That kid didn't make it back home. He died. He died somewhere.
I think there was a band of like 400 children. He's the last one.
He's one of the warriors because it takes him so long that he's grown up, and he is there.
I see. But yeah, so we have the mystery of what is happening to this village, and along with kind of the internal politics that are happening in this village, which is really not what I was expecting to also address. It was very interesting.
It's a movie that deals with practical realities. You know, you may think you're fighting one war, but often you have to fight it on multiple fronts, or even fight a war internally while you're fighting a war externally.
That's so true.
And I think it covers that very, very effectively.
Yep. There's the king himself is not doing so well health wise. He's about to go. His son, the prince, has apparently killed all of his brothers, and is a bit eager to be in power and fears that what was the nickname for the head chieftain who's leading the band?
I called him Young Gandalf because
Gandalf,
because he has his hair was so blonde it was white.
Fair enough.
So
he fears that young Gandalf is there to supplant him and take his birthright. So he's a little uppity the whole time. They're trying to fight cannibals that are coming in to murder them all.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So it definitely leads to some Viking politics that happen mid-battle for their lives.
Realpolitik.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. At this point, they don't know it's cannibals. There's a lot of superstition. They're afraid of mists and fogs, and they rely on women with bones to tell them what to do.
Wait. You said that disparagingly, but I would say women with bones nailed this.
Yeah, they did.
The first time they send the 13 people, and they were the right 13 people to get the job done.
Yep.
And the second time, and I think Antonio Banderas is key to that. I think she was right. You need this other guy with a different perspective coming in from outside. And then the second woman, who's she's pretty sleepy even when they get there. They get a sleepy woman with bones who I think takes a nap in the middle of telling them what they need to do. In the middle of the
conversation, yeah.
Her advice is perfect, and that it gets them all the way through it.
It does.
Yeah. So I'd like you to say woman with bones again.
I stand corrected is what I'm trying to say. I stand firmly corrected. You are absolutely right. The bones don't lie. I mean, I should know this from Willow. The bones don't lie there either.
True.
So.
Yeah.
But there's a very harrowing scene where, like very shortly after they arrive, where there's a naked boy running and like out in the field, and he's holding his ears. And they discover that like a nearby farmhouse has been sacked by whatever this, evil force is. And then it turns into Viking CSI or Viking SWAT team.
It's
great.
Like, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Suddenly, his team snaps into action. Everybody knows their role, and they're all different. This guy's climbing onto the roof of this place. The other two hold their swords in hand, ready to breach the front. Then there's Single Braid Guy with his bow ready, notched, aiming at the door. He's the sniper and the spotter. Like, they're all just, like, and they're doing hand signals. It's this immediate, and then the entry is seamless. Through the window, through the door, sweep the cottage, and then out. Ready, like, to let everybody know it's clear on the inside, come in. It was so CSI Viking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fucking cool. I could swear I heard bad boys, like in the background, but I don't know. I can't be sure about that. Like, maybe it was really soft. But, at one point, Banderas, like, almost steps in front of the sniper, and the guy is like, one of the other really good one-liners is like, don't get in front of me.
Just so calm, so matter of fact. And his focus never wavers from the door. Like, he
never looks,
Yep.
And that might be that dude's only line. He delivered it well.
He did.
He distinguished himself.
And,
it's funny too because that scene, no actual action happens, but it shows you how coordinated and prepared these guys are for anything. Mm-hmm. They're ready. If there had been like a hostage crisis in that Viking house rather than just a bunch of pieces of human beings that have been chewed a bit, then they would have been ready for the hostage crisis. They would have gotten those hostages out alive. I can guarantee it.
It does such a good tonal shift. I feel like what you're saying makes me think of how the beginning was so, the beginning of the journey, kind of silly, kind of light, kind of, fish out of water. He's listening to these Vikings. He's riding his horse around and demonstrating that it's kind of silly and light until that boy shows up, and then the music shifts. And there's this really creepy sound that happens every time it has to do with the creatures. And they've kind of been building up a little bit because we won't even say their name. We won't say the name of what they are. It's an unnamed threat because it's so dangerous and so supernatural. And then they go to the cottage and they've snapped into action. They're not laughing and joking anymore. They're silent. They're on point. And then we go in that fucking cottage and it is body parts and mayhem and gouts of blood and just a body hanging from the rafters with its head missing. Like Antonio Banderas' character goes to lift a blanket where he sees an arm out of the covers, and it's just the arm that just flops onto the ground. It is a very sudden shift.
Yeah.
things get real fast.
It's really jarring, and it's good. Like, it suddenly goes to, like, spine-tinglingly unsettling really well.
Right.
I concur.
Yeah.
I did learn a valuable lesson. If you ever enter a room filled with carnage and there's a blanket that seems to be buzzing, like it might be just body parts covered in flies, let's say, maybe just don't lift up the blanket.
Maybe
You already
just
know what happened. Lots of bad
Leave
stuff.
the blankets alone.
Yeah, just
there's nothing
leave.
else to investigate.
There's nothing here to learn. There's nothing to learn here. No one else is lifting that blanket. What does that tell you?
The blanket's doing you a favor.
Yes.
Yeah, the blanket's doing you a favor at this point.
Yeah.
Don't look a gift blanket in the mouth.
Mercy. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or in the arm, I guess, in this case.
We get our first action scene after that.
Yeah. That's so they have it, I guess, decided that they know they're going to be sacked. Like the hall gets attacked every once in a while or something, and so they know that they're coming. So they lay in ambush, sleeping on the floor. And this comes directly
is
from...
it every time there's mist? Is that
Every time
their
there's
system?
mist,
I think that's what it
they come
is.
with
Yeah,
the
every time
mist.
there's mist.
Thank you.
And thank you for clarifying that. And this is directly Beowulf, right? This is Beowulf's first encounter with Grendel. He is in the hall and pretending to sleep, and Grendel rolls up, and then they fight, and Beowulf rips off his arm, and that's the end of the first act of the epic poem, right? Here, you have a bunch of dudes in bear costumes, and it's dark, so they don't really understand that it's people yet. And they just come in, and they rip off, I think I called him Gonna Die Quick, is the... because I knew he was because I've seen the movie before. But they rip his head off and carry it away, and there's this gruesome scene as they're like leaving with his head. Like the camera follows the head and the entrails coming out of it. It's really, it sounds like it's too much gore, but it's not too much gore. It's like really just shot well. Yeah, Banderas gets slashed across the face, and but at the end of this battle, there's no bodies left behind.
Yeah, that's the coolest thing.
None of the enemy that they killed, they drag those guys off too. And this is part of the psychic warfare that they're doing, is they leave nothing behind to reveal that they're just people.
Right.
And it makes them seem even more supernatural and demonic than they are.
Mm-hmm.
That is the best part. For me, I think the best part of the movie, the most chilling part of the movie, is at the end of the fight when they're like unsettled. They're like, wait a second,
right?
I killed at least two. And I saw you kill at least two. Where are the people we killed? Like this is not cool.
Even Antonio Banderas like stuck a sword in one of them before he got knocked out. Like we saw this happen, and it is like they're clearly like, we are seasoned warriors. We can fight any threat that goes down by our sword. And yeah, just seeing them look around and not see what they killed. And like the one person actually did chop off a hand, and that was the one thing left behind, which is, I think, supposed to reference Beowulf as well, because the arm, the hand.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't. I never thought of that. You're right.
But yeah,
it was a claw.
It was a claw. I think it was just
the one that
was
was
one of the
claws.
claws. That's right.
Carry.
Yeah.
It was. I don't think it had a human hand attached.
It wasn't
to
a human hand. It was a claw. So they thought that it was a monster, right? Still at this point,
right? And I do like the way that like they're clearly unsettled, but they're all like calculating, like, I know, I'm a warrior. I know I killed two. I know you killed. And
yeah, it is again. It's like very SWAT team again.
Yep.
It's sort of like,
it goes back to SWAT time.
They're like aware of everything happening during the battle, even though it looks like mayhem and like nonsense is going on. They're like, I was calculating the whole time what was going on perfectly.
Yeah, and even though they've lost some of their own people, they're just kind of trying to figure out what's happening.
And it's still so matter of fact. They're like, his name was Ragnar. Gonna die quick. He's like, well, Ragnar's here. The head? No. They always take the heads. Like, it's just so...
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's like he's checking his notes. They have a wall somewhere in the shitty palace with the red strings going from one thing to another. Like, they have it all. They're trying to map it all out. It's really cool. Mark. Yeah. Like, where?
There is something satisfying about them not just being like a bunch of like savage. I actually think it's more realistic in a way. Like, to be successful in this sort of venture, you actually need to be smart and calculating and figure out like what the weak points are and what are the practical issues that I have to deal with. And I think there's something really satisfying about watching a like barbarian movie, but where the barbarians are actually like really competent.
Yeah.
Really know what's going on.
Yeah. They're good at what they do.
And like,
Yeah. They're tactical as fuck.
And the next scene demonstrates just how strategic they can be when they find out, like, essentially the woman who put horse piss on Antonio Banderas' face is like, hey man, the prince is plotting against you. Is there any truth to the fact that like young Gandalf wants to take the throne. And so, like, they realize, oh shit, we're going to have to deal with this internal problem, or we're going to have to worry about knives in our backs while we're also dealing with this external threat. What do? Well, we are simultaneously building a wall for this heretofore unwalled city because we know they're coming for us again.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They think a dragon is coming. They're told there's a fire worm. They legitimately
think a dragon is about to descend on them.
Yeah. Which is a reference to the third act of Beowulf, where he's actually killed by a dragon. Anyway, getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, because they're like, okay, we need to build some defenses. They're building some walls. They're making stakes and stuff. There's a really great scene where they give Banderas a sword, but it's too big for him to use. So he's like, where's the blacksmith? And they're like, over there. And it's like, how did you not hear that blacksmith?
The blacksmith, it's like taking up the entire half of the...
It's like, where's the blacksmith? But he goes to the blacksmith and he fashions his own sword that's much smaller. And I think the one we call Scotty was like, give him a sword and he makes it a knife, like another really good little line. Mm-hmm. But then he again has to show off that he can do it, because he chops one of the wooden planks and turns it into a spike.
Stake, yeah.
And then there's some other off-color thing, well, it's still a knife or something like that.
No, it's they look impressed for a second, then all laugh and say, when you die, can I give that to my daughter?
That's right. That's what it was. Thank you. I'm glad. Thank you for rescuing that, because it was a good line.
And they're also already kind of impressed with him because he didn't run the night before.
Yes,
they're like,
right.
They were like, he didn't run away, when they find him half clawed and lying in a pile of.
You get the impression that one of them owes another one of them some money.
100%, because legitimately, as they're pulling him up, you didn't run. Is just the dialogue.
Pleasantly surprised.
As they're all still breathing heavily from having murdered and been murdered.
Mm-hmm.
Part of their calculation, right, was probably, Eben's probably going to run, so we need to make sure we
keep an eye out for that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. He's really as far as they know, he's their lucky charm. He's nothing else. The woman said you need a 13th guy from outside town. He's their lucky 13th guy. They're not expecting anything to come of this. He's not going to be helpful.
Yep.
So they're building this wall, and there's this muck pit, and they're trying to game out how they're going to deal with this conniving prince, right? And the chieftain, young Gandalf, and Norse Puck are talking, and they see that the prince has a big thug, and they're like, well, let's do this little proxy battle, right? If I can have one of my lieutenants take out one of his lieutenants, that might squash the beef and not cause a huge internal war. If we attack the prince directly, that's going to be too much. That's going to turn the people against us and all that, right?
But just to be clear for the listeners, this is all implicit discussion. This is you have to
This is all implicit.
You have to reverse engineer why they're doing this and how it makes any sense.
So good, because Antonio Banderas tells young Gandalf. And young Gandalf is having this conversation in front of him with Norse Puck, and it just shows them looking at the prince. And then the camera sort of focuses on the very tall redhead next to the prince. And they're just like, this is a problem we're going to have to deal with. We can't just let this go. What do you think? Yeah, I think so. The thing? Yeah, the thing. And so he Norse Puck gets into the pit and starts flinging mud on giant redhead guy, who's actually kind of polite about it. He's like, hey man,
super nice,
watch
actually.
what you're doing. And then he's like, what, you dig like a dog? Did you just call me a dog? No, I said you dig like a dog, like some animal flinging muck around. Did you just call me an animal? And so he picks a fight with this guy, and they do ritualized combat. And you think, so he's just going to kick his ass. It's going to be a show of strength, and that'll squash the beef. But no, it's deeper than that. Looks like Norse Puck is going to lose. They each have 3 shields, and his shields just get destroyed. And then the prince nods, and the redhead's like, okay, I guess I got to kill this guy. And then young Gandalf nods, and suddenly the seemingly exhausted and beaten Norse Puck just fucking beheads redhead. Just immediately beheads him.
It's nothing.
It's nothing. And Antonio Banderas is like, what the fuck? He's been saying, end this. Norse Puck's about to die. What the fuck? What are you doing? This is crazy. And they finally have to explain it to him. They're like, they know we're strong. They knew we were strong before. That's why they were worried. Now they know that we're smart because we pretended we weren't going to win and then won. So they have to worry about the thing they can't, the strength they can't see now.
Yeah,
Problem solved.
Yep.
Problem solved.
He concludes that with, and fear what he does not know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is a great line.
Yes.
There's so much psychological warfare
I think that's,
in this movie.
I think that's
It's
the
so
deepest part of the
great.
movie. It's so complicated and like unspoken. Like that he just said, he's like, I'm going to explain it in one line. Like he is a calculator. We can't see and fear what he doesn't know. All right, let's move on.
And then another layer to all that is they're like, oh, we're going to mourn the loss of the redhead I just slew. I didn't really want to kill that guy. Like,
Yeah.
Like we feel bad about it. But it was a means to an end and we had to do it for the greater good.
Right. Because he says, we will miss his sword this evening.
Yes.
I think that's, and that's how they honor him.
Because
It's
a
like,
fucking
Yeah.
dragon is coming. Yes.
Yeah.
They kind of could have used that guy, but the payoff was worth it. And it's just like, this all happens in like 5 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I can see, like, from a critic's point of view, if they're watching a million movies or something, like, oh, they didn't explain this enough, or like, this is too frenetic. One of the reviews we read called it a B plot, right? And I was like, that is just really good. Like, I'm tired. Like, I hate movies that hold the audience's hand too much, right? Like,
Right.
you can unpack that if you watch it and if you think about it for just a minute.
Yep.
And it's efficient. It's done well. It's awesome. And
Yeah.
it's the heroes doing a similar thing to what the villains of the movie are doing. And it's ultimately why they're able to beat them. They kind of beat them at their own game in a way. I mean, in the total way. That's exactly how they beat them at the end. It's all about fear and symbols and superstition and outgaming someone more than just a show of strength. So
Yeah.
that's deep. I hadn't thought about that. That it's a
Yeah,
sort of
that's very good.
a microcosm of their overall strategy and the strategy of their enemy. It's like fearing what you do not know might be the theme. Might be the theme of the movie in a way.
I think so. I think that's exactly what it is.
I am a little sad that I have not yet mentioned maybe my second favorite character. Norse Puck is probably my favorite character, but friggin' Viking Aragorn. What were we calling him?
Mullet Aragorn, because he definitely has a mullet.
Mullet Aragorn. It's this guy who's sort of like dressed, for some reason, the way I think the Sheriff of Nottingham was dressed, like this black, like almost cassock.
duster?
Yeah.
It's almost like a weird duster with a sash. Like, I don't know how to explain it.
It's very good, but he's got the curly mullet, and he's like their ranger, their scout ahead. Like, as soon as they wind up in Hrothgar's kingdom, like, young Gandalf just turns to him and goes, "Be in the mist," and he just melts away to go and like scout everything. And so he knows everything that's happening. And you get a scene after they've done Viking politics, and Antonio Banderas is delivering food to him, and he's going up to find him in the watchtower, and he's just shouting his name, and the dude's finally like, "Shut up." And you see him, and he's just like chilling in a tree, which Megan called, I believe, did you remember what you called the tree? It's Nature's Tower.
Oh, Nature's Tower.
And, you know, he explains to Antonio Banderas, like, obviously I'm not going to be in the tower. That's where they expect me to be. And like, up to this point, he's able to just like smell on the wind whether a courier is wearing perfume and if they're traveling armored. And like, he can see the animals moving through the forest and vacating areas where the cannibals are. Like, he just knows everything. And he's so cool the entire time. And I love him.
He's fucking awesome. He's like MacGyver Ninja Viking.
Yes.
all
Yeah,
rolled into one.
MacGyver too.
He
Yeah.
also zip lines.
Yes.
At one point,
He does zip line. He does an
he needlessly
unnecessary
zip
zip line.
lines.
Yes, just to punctuate how freaked out he is in that moment. He because as he's talking to Banderas, all of a sudden there's a horn, and they look up into the mountains, and the music just like it's like a sonic blood draining from your head sound, and you see this line of fire descending the mountain, like the fireworm, and then he zip lines to start ringing the emergency gong. Like, what?
Yep.
You could what? Okay.
Banderas was standing right next to the gong.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah,
but he wouldn't know how to do it.
No, he would do it wrong.
The mallet's right next to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He wouldn't have done it right. You can't trust him.
You can't. No.
Have you seen his
That was
sword
cool zip
and his
line.
horse, Megan? I mean, come on. Think this guy can hit
true.
a gong like a Norseman? He can't.
He cannot.
Moments before the battle ensues, I mean, they think a dragon's coming, right? And then there's someone outside the wall, and Banderas does his dressage maneuver again to get outside the wall and rescue this person. And while he's there, he gets a good sight at what's coming, and it's actually a bunch of the cannibals, like on horseback.
With torches.
And they're all carrying torches. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's their psychic warfare, right? And one must presume that when they go to fireworm mode, that they intend to just
That's over.
slaughter everyone.
That's the end.
Yeah, that's the end. Like, you're done. But he gets back in time to report that it's cavalry, and I think it was Norris Puck who's like, "Oh man, I kind of wish it was a dragon."
Yeah.
Or I'd rather prefer the dragon.
a dragon.
is what he said, which is an interesting turn of phrase. Because it's like, if he would rather prefer that, it means he doesn't prefer that. He wishes he would prefer that because he wants to kill a bunch of cavalry. Is the technical way to
He
interpret
wants
that.
to be braver. It's like he was actually making a meta comment, not even about this current situation. It's just like, I wish I was so brave that I preferred a dragon, but I realized in this moment when you said as people that I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I'm not as brave as I want
that's
to
so
be.
Norse Puck,
Yes.
isn't it? That's so Norse Puck.
So
He's
nice.
deep.
Fuck.
He's whimsical and deep.
He is, because he's made so many comments where Antonio Banderas is like, aren't you afraid? And he's like, the skein of my life was woven a very long time ago. I'll die when I die, as will you. And I mean, when your time comes up, it doesn't matter if you're hiding in a hole. It's your time. You'll die here, you'll die there. It doesn't matter. He's like, so just enjoy it. He's like, well, I'm not a warrior. You will be soon. And that was right before cannibals came crashing through the door. And it's just, it's he has the sage wisdom of sort of a Calvinistic Norse warrior.
They probably plundered some Calvinists
Peacefully
at some point.
fatalistic. He's just, it's all right.
But, I
We'll
mean,
fight until we die.
as,
We'll die
as
when we
an-
die. That's
exactly. And like, as a Norse warrior, that's how you want to die. That's how you get into Valhalla.
Right.
So technically they're doing exactly what they need to get to their eternal reward of fighting permanently in the halls of the gods.
Right.
Oh, Norse mythology.
The battle ensues. A lot of warriors get killed. A lot of the 13th warriors get killed.
Yeah, I know.
Say
Every
goodbye.
encounter,
Yeah.
something else I appreciate is every encounter is high stakes.
Yeah.
Their numbers dwindle after every one. The ambush, they lost guys. This battle, they lose. I think they lose Tatface. They lose
One braid.
Thor 2.
Horse puncher?
Yeah, they lose one braid.
They lose
Yeah.
horse
Yeah.
puncher. You can call him Thor 2 all you want, but the last thing he does before
Yeah.
he dies is punch a horse.
His last act
He
is punching a
does.
horse in the
Punch
face.
the fuck out of a horse.
Yeah.
But they do learn one thing, and that once they actually they survive this fight, and they realize that they are fighting people, men.
Right.
Banderas says over, it's a man, and it's him working through psychologically, like, my fear, I can recalibrate now. I'm fighting against men, I can handle that.
Yes.
They're just trying to get in my head, and so it's this thing he keeps repeating, and
Right.
almost like a mantra, and
A mantra.
mantra.
No, I
whatever
like
you
it because
wanna call
it's he's their man. He's a man, and
'Cause
they're
he's a
men.
man.
It's a mantra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I assumed that was on purpose.
Anyway. It wasn't. I'm not that clever. I'm just
We heard your rap.
bad at
We know that you're
pronunciating
lying.
words. Yeah. So then they have to decide. They go to another witch. So the women in this movie are as follows:
yes.
bone readers, piss doctors, and too hot for the king who's mad and almost dying. I think
Yep.
is like the way
Yeah.
they're presented anyway.
That all seems right.
And she's
Yeah.
actually all of them are wise in their own way.
Yes.
So like all the bone readers,
Yeah.
maybe seem crazy, but have good judgment overall. And
You've established that, yeah.
the piss doctor is pretty wise and calm, and gets what's going on pretty much. And the queen,
she's
the queen is
great,
is very put together and clever, and gives them good intelligence.
yeah.
I would say that they all have agency.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really does seem that way.
In the film.
And are smarter than the men and know what's going on and kind of help steer and direct them in all their stupidity.
Damn, this is a documentary.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love the crazy sleepy lady.
Give a prophecy, take a nap.
Yep.
Yeah. Megan, what was the prophecy? Do you remember?
Yeah, the prophecy was you gotta kill their
Mother.
mother.
Their mother.
Right,
yeah.
because they had an idol that got left behind, which is kind of just the torso of just a gigantic breasted woman, presumably. And then as the prophecy lady is just going to take a nap, she just kind of opens one eye, is like, oh, and kill the guy with horns too.
The horns of power.
Okay.
It's like she just made that up.
just made
then
that
and
up.
there. Don't forget the horns of power.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
she was lying down the entire time she was talking to them. She clearly had all the answers. And was like, oh, she's the earth, seeker in the earth. Oh my God. And then literally closes her eyes. Because I'm done with you and this. And it's like, it'll end if you kill her. And oh yeah, there's a guy with horns. I guess kill him too.
Get him too.
I feel like there were two directors for this. There's McTiernan, who was the original director, and then the writer himself actually stepped in to finish the movie when McTiernan left. So there's a scene at the end that apparently was shot by the director that was tacked on to the actual end of the movie that involves the killing of this person with horns of power. I feel like the woman was supposed to just fall asleep, and then they had to reshoot that scene where she suddenly wakes up and is like, oh, also, hey, wait, guys. I know that was actually kind of a baller way to tell you to get the fuck out, but...
Also this thing.
Also,
It's
kill this other dude, too.
it's almost like something from The Simpsons or something, like almost a parody of itself. Like, oh, you must kill the Earth mother.
And that will be the...
And the horns of power!
Yeah, also do that. Oh, yeah, just one more. Oh, gosh. Can't believe I almost forgot that. It's a 2-part system. I only gave you part 1, and then I fell asleep.
Yep.
I'm glad you're still here.
Oh, holy, wait,
How long was I out this time?
Wait, third part. Also, they have a very charismatic stable boy who actually might be able to take control. The reins, if you will, if this also. Maybe take him out too, just in case. His name's Josh.
Yep, the reins of future power.
Yes.
Also, take those out.
Just in case. Always in the bloodline.
Always.
In the bloodline. So they hunt them down in their own cave.
They bring the fight to them.
Which...
They go to the earth.
Is actually pretty harrowing, right? Because once you learn that they're men, you'd think, oh, this isn't that scary anymore. But then they go in with their dwindling numbers. There's maybe, 8 of them left?
Not even half a dozen.
And they have to infiltrate this cave of a lot of cannibals. It's like they're crawling at one point, like in this slight depression in a room filled with them. Like, it is a stealth mission. It's an infiltration mission.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Viking SWAT.
Viking SWAT.
Activate. Yeah.
They are up to it.
Yep.
They have to be quiet and swing across chasms. And there's a scene where they're swimming through water stealthily with knives in their mouths.
Yes, like pirates.
It is really intense.
And like it's all stealth. Any killing they do, like it's just like a stealth mission. Like they infiltrate the camp. Some guy like unexpectedly climbs out of a tent. They whack him on the head and shove him back inside the tent. And then like the sentries, they send a guy out who's dressed in the bear suit, who like walks up to them and then like stealth stabs him in the side of the head, and the other one gets an arrow to the face. Like it's And then when they do the swimming through the knives in their mouths, they're getting to like the central area where they think she is, so they have to take all these guys out, and it's just this quick, quiet, like throat slitting. They come up behind the moment out of the water. It's so good.
Yeah,
it's so good. It's them at their finest, and it's amazing, right? That these Viking warriors who can stand out on the battlefield and punch horses and shoot arrows, they can just be fucking ninjas too.
Yep.
It's great.
I mean, to be fair, they lost their horse puncher at this point. We don't know what horse puncher would be like on a stealth mission. Do you ever bring him?
I'm speaking generally of their skill set, but yes.
They might not have even brought horse puncher on this one.
I think you leave horse puncher behind.
Yeah.
And so they make their way to the queen or the mother's lair, and it's also, the set is really beautiful. There's literally the heads of the other 13 warriors like in these vines as the chieftain is kind of making his way to slay her.
And one of you pointed out, who did they do that for? Like, they did that for themselves. There's no expectation that anybody would come down there.
Right. The warfare, this is not psychological warfare. This is just art. This is internal. Aesthetics, they maybe showed this. It was maybe like this may be a place where they exhibit to some select group of the cannibals, but it's maybe 100 people get to see this, and it's all internal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. They were very committed to their story.
Mm-hmm.
They were. They have this whole culture that you can see. Like, they have skulls are everywhere, of course, and they have skull cudgels.
So many skulls.
So many skulls.
You're under. That's actually it has to be tens of thousands of human remains in their lair, and that's when Antonio Banderas recalibrates his understanding of them. He says, "I was wrong. These are not men."
They're not human.
Right.
No,
that's right.
Not human.
And that's an important line. I'm glad you remembered that.
Yeah.
They find the huge statue of the large-breasted idol and there's just mountains of skulls. It looks like fucking Ego's planet.
At this point, so we've been seeing, the little idols, and then it is the massive statue of the idol, and they were told to kill the mother, and so here's this massive statue. And Megan's question was, do you remember the question that you asked at this moment?
Oh, how are they going to kill a statue?
How do you kill a statue, though?
How did they kill a statue?
Totally fair question.
Totally fair question. We didn't know whether or not there was a real person.
If they misinterpreted that advice, they would have had a similar problem to you.
Clink, clink, clink.
Did we bring explosives? Have we invented
That's them
explosives?
stabbing a statue.
Antonio Banderas, invent explosives. That's why you're here.
Oh, we forgot to cover Antonio Banderas' contributions to the group.
Oh,
one of which
yes.
is discovering
goodness.
the cave that no one else could discern.
God. Yeah.
So there's a cave?
That was just so funny.
There's a plant. So essentially, they speak to the old lady, seek her in the earth. They follow the trail that the fireworm left. And Antonio Banderas asked Norse Puck, what are we doing? They're like, we ride out, find them, kill them. Plan. And so they're riding along, and, they see these totems, and Antonio Banderas is like, they're dressed like bears. They have claws like bears. They put up bear skulls. They think they're bears. They want us to think they're bears. How do you hunt a bear? Run it down and kill it. Okay, how do you hunt a bear in
the
winter?
Yes, in winter. Yeah. All right. I see. That was good. That was
That's
a good
on me.
first answer.
That's on me.
I see what I did. I didn't ask the right question.
You run it down with dogs and kill it. Okay, oops. Okay, in winter, you find its cave. Exactly. So we need to find a cave. And so that's when Mullet Aragorn comes out. He's like, I see some campfires.
And young Gandalf, is there a cave? Yeah. So Banderas is being useful, and then they're like right on top of the cave, and they're looking at a cannibal in a bear suit coming across the bridge toward them.
Underneath them, right? They're like looking down, and there's a bridge under them. They're walking into a rock face, like just
directly into a rock face, and they're like, so where does he go?
I don't see a cave. Where's the?
I don't see a cave anywhere.
Where's the cave? And unfortunately,
that's when Antonio Banderas contributes his greatest moment. I think they would have just gone home. Yeah. I think in that they would have been like, well,
no cave
I guess they made a bridge to the rock face, and then there's no cave. So what do we do?
What do you do?
And Antonio Banderas realizes, wait, that bridge goes into the cave.
Yeah, it was mind-blowing.
Fantastic.
Literally, because one of them got an arrow to the face, to the forehead moments later. True. So anyway, fast forward again. So they're young Gandalf squares off with the mother. It's a very brief encounter, and he does decapitate her. But before he can do that, she poisons him with her middle finger claw, so he's got a poison scratch that will definitely be lethal.
Yes. And the rest of the cannibals are coming, so they need to escape. Like,
they need to get the hell out.
What do we do? I guess we go deeper.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Classic.
And this started to feel super claustrophobic to me. Like underground, small areas. They don't know where they're going. They don't even know if there's an out.
Mm-hmm. And then it turns out it just runs into a wall. They're like, well, we follow the water. The water has to let out somewhere. And then all of a sudden there's just whole wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, okay, all right, we'll fight in shifts of 2, so someone can take a break. Well, we have some time to rest, and that's just what we're going to do for now.
I like that they cover that first before they find any other solution. It's just like, all right, well, we'll do as much as we can.
We'll make our stand. Yeah,
thousands of them. But if we do in shifts of 2,
they're so consistent with their thinking, right? Like all throughout the story, it's just well written. Then I think was it Banderas again?
Yeah, well, the thunder says like right. They set this up
the
too.
Thunder Cliffs.
They give you.
They did set this up.
He teaches the other guy. Aragorn, I guess, has taught him right that when you hear the sound of thunder, it's not really a storm coming. It's actually sea water and cliffs or something, or sea caves or something like that. Yeah.
So they decide to make a desperate attempt to swim under, and it's just a really cool scene of them like desperately swimming through this dark tunnel until they see a little halo of light, and they come up out on the other side, and that's how they escape.
There's so many good one-liners, most of them from Norse Puck, and this is one of my favorites. Like it's no one has asked anything. Most of them have ducked down and gone under, and it's just about, I think it's just Banderas and Norse Puck. And he's like smiling, grinning, and like taking deep breaths. And he says,
"If they don't follow us, it's too far to swim."
Exactly. If they don't follow us, it's too far to swim. And then he ducks under.
Then he just goes under.
And then they go for it, yeah.
I love this guy's outlook on life and death and stuff. He's great.
Yeah. And so they killed the mother, but they have part 2 of the mission, which is, and this is, if you want to be a critic of the movie, I suppose it's fair to say this part does feel very tacked on, where they have to kill the guy with the horns of power. And so they do a second raid on the town. It's a very brief fight. Bolvi, young Gandalf, the chieftain, whatever you want to call him, knows he's going to die, and so he's going to make his last stand. You get that beautiful line about, if only someone would write my history, I might feel like I was wealthy before I died. And he, faces down the cannibal with the horns and kills him, and then the battle ends like abruptly, like the cannibals like disappear into the mountains behind them.
Right. Somehow they immediately, because of his scream, if I remember correctly.
Cry. Yes.
He has a certain very characteristic death scream that he's showed them before,
right.
so that they would know when he died.
Yes. And everything is shot in slow motion. So I think the actual length of this battle is about 28 seconds between
it was
the
quick.
cannibals riding up, Bolvi killing the horn power guy, him death screaming, and then the cannibals riding away. And then inexplicably, it shows what you presume to be cannibals, just like dark figures along the ridge lines that slowly just sink down out of sight, completely normally. So Michael Crichton must have just gotten a bunch of extras to go put on furs, stand out there, and then at his signal just lower themselves out of sight.
That's good directing.
Yeah. The effect was good, though. The effect was they're disappearing with
they're
the mist
melting
kind of
away.
thing.
It's fine, I guess.
It's a little too easy. I will say, in fairness, they set it up with the whole world is run by superstition, right? And this psychological warfare is the real battle. And so if they've lost their 2 main symbols, then I guess they might crumble or think that these warriors are too powerful to tangle with, or something in their culture might have signaled. So it's they do turn the tables on their enemy by using the enemy's own tactics in a sense.
It's true.
I concur. I understand why they wanted that last scene. Because there is something weirdly anticlimactic about the killing the mother in a cave and then swimming out and the end. There's something about that that's a little unsatisfying, but I still think it feels very tacked on to have another sort of really brief battle.
Yep.
I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah, definitely. And they wanted to make the leader of the warriors have a cool death,
Yes.
I think, because he wins the fight, but then the poison takes him over, and he sits there. And there's inexplicable red dog that has been throughout the movie that is kind of like the spirit guide or something. It's just always in the background. Is by his side, and he's just sitting there like a king on a throne, but dead. And it's kind of cool.
It is a cool scene, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. He's just, he looks like a barbarian king, and he has the most impressive man spread in death in that moment.
Yeah.
Just 90-degree angle at that crotch.
And if I may, a very nice little self-satisfied smile.
Yep.
For sure. If I had to go out, happy. It's not bad to go out like this.
I mean, he killed both of the people they had to kill.
He did.
Yeah.
He did them both in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which I think is interesting, too, because in a way, Banderas was not the main character of this movie. He's there to provide, the audiences, movies and stories do this, right? They have the fish out of water because the audience is also fish out of water. So you have someone to learn the culture so that the audience can then learn the culture and all that sort of thing, right?
And presumably to draw the story for us.
Yes.
Right.
Right?
Right.
To draw, he's the observer who was able to tell of these deeds.
Right. Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. Which it ends up being his real purpose at the end. And so it's just kind of interesting to have the main character not be the the hero, the real hero of the story in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know?
he was actually an interesting compromise, because sometimes that person will be like actually totally useless. Like they'll almost just be like, I feel like he was more competent than you usually see of the person who ultimately isn't really the hero or the person who's doing the fulcrum on which it actually shifts. He was still like not laughable. You know, he was competent enough. So, and I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
It was a little more even in a way as a main character.
He did find the cave. Yeah,
You totally
I
found that
agree.
cave.
He did find the cave.
he
contributed
so well.
He contributed, but he didn't take over. Like, I think of other, like, fantasy, like maybe Bilbo Baggins, right? Like, Bilbo Baggins was supposed to be this ancillary character of this team of dwarves, and then he ends up becoming the star, though. Like, he has the ring. Like, story. It's because of him, everything else happened. It becomes his story, right? Like, it's not really Oakenshield Thorn's story. Not really.
right.
It's really Bilbo's story. And so this is Eben's story, but it's really Bolvi or young Gandalf's story, you know.
Yeah.
I know I mixed a lot of words and names of
Bolvi, young
characters from two
Gandalf,
books there.
Eben, Banderas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, all makes sense.
It makes sense in my head. That's all that
It's the only
matters,
place it
right?
matters. The only place it's real.
So just to put a pin on this, what would folks rate this movie on the rock scale? Regrettable, outstanding, Crazeballs, or K?
It's definitely not regrettable or K.
I go with outstanding.
I don't know that it's...
I'm outstanding.
I think by elimination it has to be outstanding, because it's not a Crazeballs movie in that, like, what you're watching, you're like, this is totally bonkers off the wall. It's just well done.
It's a well done movie.
It's just a well done movie.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's just good.
Yeah, I agree. Outstanding.
Yeah. The rock scale does it again.
Oh,
Just
I hate you.
every
You are a monster. These are.
circumstance, it has the right
I was wrong.
answer.
You are not a man.
If I had to rate, well done. If I had to rate the rock scale on the rock scale, I would rate it outstanding.
Thank you, TJ.
Wow.
Me too.
And this
Me
was the
too.
last time TJ ever guessed it. Who knew that his fortunes could turn so sharply and so fast?
We did good work here, people.
Indeed. Well, I
Okay.
mean, to be fair, McTiernan, Banderas, and the motley crew of unnamed Vikings did good work, and we just.
But I feel like we've served some entertainment justice tonight. I just
100% agree.
feel
This
good.
movie is deeply entertaining, historical action. I love the Vikings.
Documentary.
They're so good. The acting is so good. Honestly, it is. The comedic delivery.
We didn't even get to say, these are a bunch of it's Banderas and a bunch of no-name actors that many have never appeared in any other film again. Norse Puck, I think that this is his only thing he's ever done. Is that right?
Good.
Did
I think there was barely
he was
anything else.
Awesome.
Mullet
Yeah.
Aragorn, basically nothing else. God dang it.
They were awesome in this
So
movie.
good.
And it's just, I think that's interesting too, right? Because sometimes you get a lot of star power and sometimes it turns out really great. You got Banderas, and Banderas is fine. I feel like he's almost upstaged by some of these dudes who aren't really even that important. They're just really good. They're just good. It's good.
I'm with you. It remains shocking to me that this movie lost $130 million. It's a lot of money to lose for such a great film.
It does.
And it's one of the tragedies of Hollywood.
I really don't. Like, there's the critics didn't like it very much. There's the whole the budget ballooned. There was drama with the directors, and the test audience screenings were disastrous. And so it just
It got delayed.
yeah, it was a whole bunch of factors that sort of created sort of a dark cloud over this movie that maybe helped tank it at the box office. But like, take it at face value. This is fun. This is good. This is as good as it needs to be to have been successful, and it's very disappointing that it wasn't. Michael, do you have a Sneha story?
Just a quick one. Sneha lost her first tooth tonight.
wow, she did.
So it's
Yay.
really cute. But she didn't tell us. Like, we knew she had 2 loose teeth, so she has another one coming. But so we knew it was coming, and I was expecting her fully to like run up and say, "Daddy, look, my tooth," and like hand it to me like, you know, a normal kid would do. And we were getting ready for bed right before we sat down to record this, and we looked in her mouth and her tooth was missing, and we're like, "Sneha, did your tooth fall out?" She's like, "Yeah." And we're like, "Where is it?" And she's like, "Oh, it's under my pillow."
Oh, thank
She
goodness.
took that bitch directly from mouth to pillow. She did not want to waste any time. She did not want to miss the opportunity. I don't know what we're going to put there in place of her tooth tonight, but it's got to be something now. We're on the spot. 'Cause
Right,
She knows the ritual. I didn't teach it to her.
Thank
I guess
goodness
she osmosed it.
she told you, because otherwise,
Yeah. If we didn't notice, we would be fucked.
The real Tooth Fairy would have done something about it. Like if the parent misses
I would
it,
hope
then
that she would step in.
the real Tooth Fairy does it. I'm pretty sure.
That's how it works.
That's not how Christmas ever worked for me.
Oh. Well, your trauma aside, Megan, do you want to do an Abby story, or do you want to?
Yeah, just very quick. Dan called me, FaceTimed me today, and the first thing I saw when I accepted the FaceTime was Mimi from both Abby and Maddie, and apparently the chants before the call were "See Mimi, see Mimi, see Mimi," and they were very wanted to see Mimi, so it was very cute.
Aww.
That's very sweet.
That's cute.
Yeah, very sweet.
Megan, do I have a recommendation?
Well, I have a Amber Got It Right, so if you, yeah.
This might surprise
We're
people.
in the presence of greatness.
Yes, you are. You're welcome. This is kind of an obvious one because everybody already knows this, but Hades is fun. The video game Hades is quite fun. It was recently released on console and added to Game Pass, and it's fun, and I highly recommend it.
It was the Besties game of the year, 2020. And they're right. And moreover, Amber got it right.
Oh, I love that.
Nice.
Yeah. It's a roguelike, but like you keep building on you kind of keep building interesting, you keep earning new weapons, you keep building you're getting more interesting powers as you go along. I recently heard that there's a god mode, so like if you kept failing, you can actually switch on the god mode, which means every time you lose, you start to take less damage, and you can toggle it on and off, and I think it goes up to like 50%. So like you can take 50, like if you want to keep going with the story but are getting frustrated, you can turn on this god mode and get through more of it.
And that's the thing, like it's got a story. Like it's the way they designed the game is that you're supposed to die to progress the story. Like your failure is intentional. It's such that even if you succeed, you're supposed to keep doing it again and like progress the story and your interactions with characters. And like that keeps you coming back because there's this whole backstory that's like based in Greek mythology. That's it's family drama, it's intrigue, it's interpersonal conflicts. They pull in Orpheus and Eurydice and Sisyphus and Achilles and Patroclus, and it's like it makes you want to fail so you can see what Zeus is going to say to you and whether or not you'll ever get that drink. It is deeply satisfying. There's a reason it was so wildly popular.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and the game art is pretty cool too.
Yeah,
it's very well. It's like the atmosphere of it is well designed. Sort of a comic book-esque aesthetic.
Yeah,
that is really really well done and intricate. Like I noticed new details when I go through different parts. Every little piece of it is intricately designed. So
yeah.
So this is a 3-person recommendation, I guess.
Yeah.
Play Hades, Xbox, PlayStation 5, and PC. But right now it's on Game Pass. I highly recommend giving that a shot. Well, this has been delightful. I hope you all have a good weekend this year. And gosh, I want to say I love you all so very much. And this is the perfect ending for this. Just a heartfelt declaration of love. There's no better way to end this. And if you tacked another ending onto this, gosh, it would really, really kind of ruin it a little bit. For me and probably our listeners.
I mean, yeah. Well, I just want to really quick kind of say what I always say at the end, which is wake up determined, go to bed satisfied.
Oh, that must be a quote from The Rock, since there was no rock word in it. Go to bed determined, wake up satisfied.
No, wake up. Wake up. Oh my God. Wake up determined, go to bed satisfied.
Oh, of course, that makes so much more sense. Wake up determined, go to bed satisfied. So just if I wake up determined to do a thing, whether or not I do it, I'll be satisfied that I woke up with that determination.
I mean, that's, yeah. There's no in
you
between.
just have to want it.
Yeah, you just have to want it. You don't have to do it.
You don't have to do anything.
You just have to want it. And then you can go to bed being like, I wanted the fuck out of that thing I didn't
I wanted that so bad. Anyway.
I'm so proud of myself. Tomorrow, I'm going to want the fuck out of it again. I don't even have to think of a new thing to want. God, I'm going to be so satisfied for the rest of my life and accomplish nothing. Just.
Yeah, it's like the prophecy nap lady. Just wanted to give a prophecy and then got to take a nap. She's very satisfied with herself.
Even that image can't save you, Megan.
The horns of power. You must get him too.
Which Dwayne the Rock Johnson has horns on his shoulders, one of his tattoos.
Try and
He
make
is
this
he
make
is the
sense.
horned guy.
So he's dead now. What you're saying is he's dead. Bolvi killed him, and he's dead now. That guy actually was shockingly jacked.
He was. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Megan.
Bye.